Cherished survivors, honored veterans, distinguished guests, fellow Canadians. 70 years ago tomorrow, the United States 7th Army arrived at the notorious concentration camp at Dachau. A first-hand report from a Turkish journalist who had been imprisoned there reads as follows. The detachment under the command of the American major had not come directly to the House. It had made a detour by way of the marshalling yard, where the convoy of deportees normally arrived, and departed. There they found some 50-odd cattle cars parked on the tracks. The cars were not empty. The train was full of corpses, piled one on the other, 2,310 of them to be exact. The train had come from Birkenau, and the dead were Hungarian and Polish Jews, children among them. Their journey had lasted perhaps 30 or 40 days. They had died of hunger, of thirst, of suffocation, of being crushed, or of being beaten by the guards. They were all practically dead when they arrived at Dachau station. The SS did not take the trouble to unload them. They simply decided to stand guard and shoot them any with enough strength left to emerge from the cattle cars. The corpses were strewn everywhere, on the rails, the steps, the platforms. I never saw anything like it in my life, said Lieutenant Harold Mayer. Every one of my men became raving mad. In some ways, the Holocaust of the Jewish people began and ended at Dachau. Le premier camp de concentration, Dachau, a été établi en avril 1933 par Heinrich Himmler, 3 mois après que Hitler est devenu Reichschancellor. Au début, ce camp a logé des ennemis du régime et des petits criminels. Mais quand les nazis ont augmenté leur terreur, la population des victimes s'est élargie pour inclure les homosexuels, les guettins, des témoins de Jéhovah, des personnes avec des handicaps mentaux ou physiques. Et suivant le Kristallnacht, en 1938, les Juifs sont emprisonnés dans le camp. Leur seul crime, être juif. Les Juifs polonais et hongrois que l'armée américaine a rencontrés étaient entre les dernières victimes du camp. Ces derniers prisonniers qui, d'une façon ou d'une autre, ont survécu le camp d'extermination de Birkenau, qui ont été envoyés à Dachau juste avant la libération d'Auschwitz. In some ways, Dachau perfectly incarnates what Hannah Arendt later called the banality of evil. According to a New York Times report of April 30, 1945, quotes, Bavarian peasants who traveled this road daily ignored both the bodies and the horrors inside the camp to turn the American seizure of their city into an orgy of looting. Even German children rode by the bodies without a glance. And so, as we gather together solemnly to discharge the duty of Zachor, of remembrance, we are moved to silence in contemplating the mystery of this evil, reduced to such banality by Hitler's willing executioners. We are reduced to silence because it is impossible for us to grasp the immense depravity of the Holocaust. As theologian Arthur Cohen wrote, the Holocaust is evil torn free of its moorings in reason and causality, an ordinary secular corruption raised to unimaginable powers of magnification and limitless extremity. This is why the Holocaust is a lesson a sign for all of humanity and for all of history. It is why we must relentlessly fight efforts to deny it and also to diminish it. It is why we must never end the work of remembrance. Every year, we are removed to reverence at this ceremony by the presence of survivors of the Shoah. But every year, fewer of them are with us, which is why we must and are renewing the work of remembrance. It is why we will soon see the National Holocaust Memorial rise within sight of this place as a sign for future generations. Et c'est pour cela que le gouvernement du Canada soutient des efforts tels que les archives numériques vivantes pour enregistrer les témoignages de nos survivants afin que leurs souvenirs puissent être transmis à travers les siècles. C'est pour cela que nous avons bâti le Musée des droits humains au cœur du Canada, pour se souvenir des conséquences de nier la dignité de la personne humaine. And we will continue to remember the other great genocide of the centuries of tears, including the centenary of the Armenian genocide, which we commemorated last week, with the House of Commons adopting a motion to establish April as Genocide Remembrance, Condemnation, and Prevention Month. Finally, we must give real meaning to the commandment never again that reaches us from the voices of the survivors. Because, as Elie Wiesel reminded us, we must take sides. Sometimes we must interfere. Wherever men and women are persecuted because of their race or religion, that place, at that moment, becomes the center of the universe. That is why we have deployed the Canadian Armed Forces to join the fight against the genocidal anti-Semitic death cult of Daesh, the so-called Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. By acting with our allies, we have saved countless innocents, Christians, Yazidis, and others, from attempted genocide. Just as Canadian troops helped to liberate Bergen-Belsen 70 years ago this month, today, Canadians are helping to defend human dignity against genocide. And so today, we rededicate ourselves to a world without genocide, as we call to mind the sacred memory of the 6 million, as we will do when Cantor Kraus leads us in the Kaddish of mourning. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, valkol Yisrael vimru amen. May he who makes peace in his high places grant peace upon us and upon all his nation, Israel, and say amen.